Thank you so much. Over to you, Minister.
Thank you very much to our program director, who's also the Deputy Minister of Women, Youth and Persons with Disability. Of course, the brand new president of the ANC Women's League. Greetings to His Excellency, the President of the Republic, Mr. Cyril Matamela Ramaphosa. Greetings to Umama Usofi Brain, on whose shoulders we stand. Greetings to the Premier of Gauteng. The Honorable Panyaza. Greetings to the MMC. And greetings to the ministers who are here, deputy ministers, members of parliament, members of political parties who are here, and more importantly, all of you who have decided to spend your day here. Watinta bafazi, uzokufa finish. I'm honored and humbled to participate in this commemoration of the fearless, organized, united women who ensured that they came and stormed the citadel of men. I'll just say nobody had done it before. And they came and they said, Watinta bafazi. This because we won't say a lot today because we have our own president who's going to speak. But I just want to say something about patriarchy. And I want to quote from one of our finest sons of the continent, Thomas Sankara. As Thomas Sankara said, and I quote, Frederick not only traced the evolution of technology, but also the history of the enslavement of women, which was born with the arrival of private property, owing to the transition from one mode of production to another, and from one form of social organization to another. Mankind first knew slavery with the advent of private property. Man became the master of his slave and the land, and also became the owner of the woman. This was the great historic defeat of the female sex. It came about with the upheaval in the division of labor as a result of new modes of production and a revolution in the means of production. In this way, paternal rights replaced maternal rights. And property was now handed down from father to son rather than from the woman to her clan. The patriarchal family and patriarchal society made its appearance. Founded on the soul and personal property of the father who had become the head of family, within the family, the woman, and within society, the woman was oppressed. In South Africa, that translated into what Umamu Sofi was saying, triple oppression. We got oppressed because we were women, according to our race, because we were black, and class because we were workers. So I just thought today, as we remember those giants who fought this patriarchal system and bequeathed us with a South Africa that was better, we have made strides since democracy, but a lot more still needs to be done. Let me say, even God did not create women as oppressed. There was equality in the Garden of Eden. God created an equal society for us. So we must go back to that equal society. And also South Africa, Mr. President, is not free. O.R. Tambo said no country can boast of being free until its women are free. So we are not free. South Africa is not free. It will only be free when we are free as women. And I just want to touch on GBV and femicide and that sketch. I want to say, as government, President, let's take the district model approach, even on GBV. Let's say in every ward, the councillor must be at the forefront of fighting GBV. Induna, Inkosi, the religious leader in that ward must be at the forefront of fighting GBV. If we can do that, I think we can start to make a dent. And in every ward, we should say zero tolerance to GBV. You are not going to live in this ward if you are going to abuse and kill and harm women. So I think if we take that approach, we can make some inroads. And of course, we also think that I believe that our ancestors look upon us. And I think today they are very happy. They are happy because Banyana Banyana has made history. They are not only the African champions, but they were able to get into the round of 16. And they do that against very difficult challenges. There is no women's soccer league in the country. There must be. They get paid less than their male counterparts. The wage gap in South Africa is still there. Iceland has made it illegal to pay a woman less than a man for work of equal value. Shouldn't we do that as well? Yes. I think we should do that as well. They are also happy because I'm sure they were with us in Cape Town when the Spar netball Proteas were playing there, and they bequeathed themselves very well. And I'm sure the president will say more on that. I won't. Before I conclude, women must have access to justice. There are very serious problems with women accessing justice. I won't go further than that. It's a story for another day, but it must be mentioned. The LGBTQIA+ must stop being killed, discriminated against. They must have their rights like all of us. But women must be in the economy of this country, not just in the formal, not only in the small and medium, but they must also be part of the big corporates in this country. This country won't reach its full potential unless women participate equally in every area of human endeavor. Malibongwe! Malibongwe! It is now my singular honor to call upon our President, His Excellency Cyril Matamela Ramaphosa.
Amandla. Amandla. Forward with the women of South Africa, forward. Amandla. Dumelang. Dimasiari. Abshin. Sanbonani. Molweni. Lochani. Good afternoon to you all. Program Director, Minister Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, Minister Zizi Kodwa, and other ministers who are also here today, as well as our deputy ministers. The Premier of the Gauteng province, kana babitsa mang panya kapa babitsa mang. Okay. The MMC of the Mayoral Committee of Tshwane, members of Parliament who are here with us today, representatives and leaders of various political parties here present, religious leaders, our traditional leaders who are also here with us, and community leaders also here present, and guests both representing various countries and guests from around the country as well, and more importantly, Mama Sophie de Bruyn. I greet all the women of South Africa on this very special, auspicious day, the 9th of August, Women's Day. Today, as men and as women, we celebrate the beautiful mothers of our nation, our sisters who are also beautiful, our grandmothers who are outstandingly beautiful, and our daughters who are extraordinarily beautiful. Together, we thank the women of South Africa for the role that they have played in the life of our nation. And the role of women in our country has been phenomenal. Today, we celebrate how far we have come in building a non-sexist society where women, and we are striving to ensure that women become freer and attain that moment, Minister Dlamini Zuma, of total freedom, where women, and we are doing this, we are inspiring that women should enjoy equal rights to those of men as guaranteed by our Constitution. As we do this, we recall the suffering that the women of our country have endured for no reason other than that they were women. And of course, they have also suffered under another form of oppression, which is because the majority of them are black or were black during the apartheid days, and also because they came from the working class stock. We remember the courageous struggles waged by women against oppression from those who stood up against colonialism and slavery, to those who risked jail, the hated Dom Pass or the pass, We remember those women who took up arms against a violent regime, who organized workers to fight exploitation, and who led political movements as well as civic movements, and who were involved in the drafting also of our new constitution. Today, of all days, we salute Imbokodo, Amakawekazi, the brave pioneers who marched onto the Union buildings here on this day in 1956. There are few moments more compelling in our history than the day when tens of thousands of women gathered in the amphitheater of these Union buildings. I often tell people that whenever we had visits from other countries, when heads of state come here, I always take them to what we've put at the Union buildings to symbolize that march on the Union buildings. Two rocks, one forming the base and one inside the base as a grinding stone. And I always take time to tell them in some detail about the march of 20,000 women on the Union buildings. We are still moved by the images of women like Lillian Ngoyi, Rahima Musa, Sophie de Bruyn, and Helen Joseph carrying armfuls of petitions from the women of South Africa. I still remember that picture where Mama de Bruyn was carrying these reams of papers, beautiful as she still looks today. We are honored and privileged to have amongst us today this remarkable woman, Auntie Sophie de Bruyn. We are grateful for your lifetime of service and your continued contribution to the cause of women's emancipation. And all of us, Mama de Bruyn, we say thank you. Thank you for the sacrifices that you and those who were with you made to get us where we are. The women marched here to the Union buildings, to the seat of the apartheid power, to demand the end to laws that were intended to deprive them of their rights and dignity as black women. Today, all the women of South Africa, whether they are black, white, Indian, or colored, do have rights that we can celebrate today. We thank them for the bravery of activism and sacrifices of that generation of 1956. Thanks to the struggle over the generations, all South African women have the right to vote today, which women did not have. They have the right to work, a right that was restricted or limited just to menial jobs and domestic work. They have the right to have control over their bodies, the right also to property and to be able to own assets, even though that right is still restricted. On this Women's Day, we pay tribute to Imbokodo from across South Africa for their resilience. Despite the hardships, the deprivation, and the many difficulties, South African women continue to stand strong. They bring up the nation. The children are brought up, all of us were brought up by the women of South Africa. And we must celebrate that. And we must thank the women of our country for making us to be what we are today. We say thank you very much. Indeed, you are the mothers of the nation. The women of our country today run businesses. They earn livings. They learn skills. They raise families. And they lead organizations. And today they also hold public office. Even when opportunities are difficult to come by, South African women do not give up rather. They do not run away. They do not succumb. They actually stick to the job because, as it is often said, bomme kapo basadi ba tshwara thipa ka bohaleng ba yona. A free translation meaning the women of South Africa hold the life on its sharp end. That's the determination that the women of our country have, and we applaud you for that. We applaud the women of our country for the courage that they have. In every part of this country, women are taking charge of their destinies. They are also inspiring others, and they are also driving change. They are excelling in areas once closed to women, as engineers, as scientists, as managers, as pilots, as farmers, as athletes, as soldiers. And when it comes to soldiers, that's when I admire them the most, because I always see them on Armed Forces Day, carrying the very big guns with lipstick on their mouths. And I always wonder, lipstick and a big gun, how do the two connect? But the women of our country have broken into those areas. And today, in Durban and Gqeberha, the women of our country under Transnet, they are now shepherding 7 vessels into the sea in an all-women crew. The women of the country are forging into areas that we never thought they would be. They are captains, they are pilots, they are on fighter jets, and they are going into various areas. So women are the strength of our nation. They carry our nation, and the women of our country prepare the next generation for a better future. And as a country, we have come a long way in advancing the rights of women. This is largely due to the struggles that the women of our country waged and continue to wage. And on this, I will say to the women of our country, never ever stop and never ever give up. You must continue the pressure to ensure that women do get their due right in this country. That we must continue to do. Because in the end, the women of our country, being the majority population section in our country, have to get what is due to them. And also, there is the question that the women of our country have raised repeatedly, and this is about representation. The women of our country have demanded that they need to be represented in every endeavor that affects the lives of South Africans. And they have clearly said nothing about them without them being involved. And this must become a reality, because without these types of insistence and struggle, we would not be where we are. Since the advent of democracy in 1994, we have put policies and laws in place to empower women, to improve their lives, and to advance gender equality. And we see some of these we see the advancement, we see how women are surging forward. South Africa has one of the highest literacy rates in our region, on the continent. There is parity between girls and boys in primary school enrollment. More female learners sit for matric than males. Female learners are achieving more bachelor passes, and one could actually safely say women are proving to be cleverer than men, and we applaud this. Yes, you only need to go to check the matric results. You will see that the young girls are surging forward. So, Premier, girls and women are cleverer than you and me. So let's accept that. Young women make up the majority of students enrolled in higher education institutions, in our colleges and in our universities. And we should encourage this and make sure that this goes on and advances forward. We want to see an increase, yes, in the representation of women in all respects. In our parliament, yes, we are seeing more and more women being represented. In the judiciary, we are seeing more and more women surging forward. In public service, in the armed forces, as well as in the police, and in many local councils, we are getting closer and closer to gender parity. In the cabinet that I lead, there is parity between men and women, and we have made sure that we will keep that 50-50 balance in the cabinet of the Republic of South Africa. In order to advance the lives of women, there must be policies and laws that focus and advance the women of our country. Our laws and policies must have a bias towards improving the lives of women. And we would like to see, as we draft our laws, to ensure that we use a microscope to see how best the interests and the lives of our women can be improved. And that is a process that the women who sit in my cabinet, that the women who sit in our parliament are also beginning to make sure that it happens. Because in the end, this will deal a blow against patriarchy in places where patriarchy still exists. And so we want to see that happening. In our education system, we do want and intend and are advancing and prioritizing the role and participation of women. And we want young women to make up the majority in the various disciplines that are offered by our institutions of higher learning. We still, however, have a problem with girls dropping out of school, often due to difficulties at home, as a society and as families. And as a nation, we must ensure that our girls stay at school and that they finish school. And I call upon parents to ensure that our girls do stay at schools and do continue to higher levels of education, because our government has made it its task to ensure that there's appropriate funding for the children and the young people of our country at institutions of education. The health of women must be a key priority as well. We should remember it was President Nelson Mandela who decided right at the dawn of our democracy that pregnant women and children under 6 should get free health care. we have advanced even much further since 1994. Women's health outcomes continue to improve as a result of progressive policies around reproductive health, antenatal care, HIV/AIDS, and other communicable diseases. Even though women's health outcomes have improved by a number of indicators, women still carry the largest share of burden of HIV and are more vulnerable to sexually transmitted diseases. Despite our laws, women and girls in many parts of this country still struggle to access reproductive health services, and this has to improve, and our health services need to be more accessible, and this is a priority that our Department of Health will also be focusing attention on. The participation of women in our economy must also be improved. Our economy remains dominated by men. More women are unemployed than men. When you look at our unemployment figures, you find that it is more women who are unemployed than men. And this has become and is a priority for our government. Women are more likely to work part-time. They are more likely to be unskilled and semi-skilled, and they get much lower pay than men. And women are disproportionately responsible for unpaid care work. And it is in this area where we say there must be equal pay for equal work, and women can no longer be paid lower than men for the same work that they do. Minister, we must now advance to, yes, ensuring that there is a law that will ban discriminatory pay between men and women for the same job. We will now pilot, because it is inherently unjust, it's inherently unfair. And we also see this with the underpayment of our women's sports people. And I will deal with that in a little while. We saw that last year, or was it earlier this year? It was last year when the women won the African Cup of Nations. And in the end, we found that they were being paid less than men. And I made a call then that there must be equality of payment between men and women at that level. In fact, right now, I'm sure you will all join me. They should actually be getting more paid because they perform better than our men. So as a result of all this, women are more vulnerable to poverty, to food insecurity, and to hunger. Even today, nearly 3 decades after the dawn of democracy, the face of poverty is still the face of a black woman. And that also must be changed. The emancipation of women, therefore, cannot be achieved without economic empowerment. Women must be breadwinners. They must have equal job opportunities. They must be able to start and own and manage their own businesses. Women need to have financial security and independence to have control over their lives. We are determined to make the most available resources to make a difference in the lives of young women, women with disabilities, rural women, as well as LGBTQI+ women. We are making a difference in the lives of women who are involved in small, medium enterprises. in cooperatives, and also in the informal sector. Among other things, government is supporting women's economic empowerment through public procurement. We have made a commitment as government to allocate at least 40% of public procurement to women-owned businesses. And Minister Dlamini Zuma is looking at a various number of mechanisms to make sure that this does happen, including up to moving to a level where we will have regulations and legal as well as legislative prescripts that will ensure that indeed the women of our country do get empowered. While government departments are working in earnest to award more contracts to women-owned businesses, we need to do much more. As things stand, less than a third of the companies listed on the government central supplier database are women-owned. We want this to change. We have trained more than 6,000 women entrepreneurs to take part in public procurement opportunities. The success of this program has convinced me of the need to train more and more women entrepreneurs in their thousands. When I was given the report that we have only trained 6,000, I said I want tens and tens of thousands of women to be trained in this way. The African Continental Free Trade Area, which is now in implementation mode, will give women-owned businesses in our country and across the African continent access to new markets and opportunities. And this is precisely where we want our women to participate, and we want to strengthen their hand and to have them well prepared and well trained and well resourced to be able to participate in this. We are working with partners on opportunities for women's employment and entrepreneurship in agriculture, in manufacturing, in technology, and also the oceans economy and others. The green economy presents immense potential for women's entrepreneurship and empowerment, especially in renewable energy. In a number of cities and towns, there are many women who are established as green entrepreneurs, working in recycling, in greening, in climate-smart agriculture, and in a number of other avenues. We call on the business community to support women's economic empowerment by partnering with small businesses that are led and owned by women as part of their green economy plans. There is also immense opportunity for young women in public employment initiatives. Since it was established in 2020, the Presidential Employment Stimulus has provided work and livelihood support and opportunities to more than 1.2 million people. And this is something that we need to celebrate, but we also need to increase, because we need to see more and more women participating in a greater pool of the participants that can participate in these types of public employment initiatives. We will ensure that our just transition to low carbon climate resilient society protects the interests of women as it does for all those affected, and that it offers opportunities for women workers and women-owned businesses as well. Government continues to support women-owned businesses to expand and to diversify. We are specifically increasing our support for for small medium enterprises through the National Empowerment Fund, through the Small Enterprise Finance Agencies, and other mechanisms that we have. And working with the financial services sector, we are looking to close the gender gap so that women can access banking services and credit for their businesses. As a country, we have the right policies and programs in place. Led by the women of our country, we will continue to develop policies that will advance the interests of the women of South Africa. What we need now is to intensify the collective efforts of all social partners, including business, to do more financially to empower women. Businesses in particular must follow government's lead to set aside at least 40% of their spending to the empowerment of women. If businesses could say, and we want to direct them and encourage them to move in that way, that up to 40% of what they procure or what they buy will be directed to women-owned businesses and women-managed businesses, our economy will really start growing more effectively because women will be playing a key role in the economy of our country. Violence perpetrated by men against women and girls continues to be an assault on our common humanity. Women do not feel safe in their homes. They do not feel safe in the streets of our country, and they do not feel safe wherever they walk. And we therefore want to make sure that we bring gender-based violence to an end. This we should do through implementing the National Strategic Plan to combat gender-based violence and femicide, a plan which was conceived by the women of our country, and we want to applaud women organizations for having led the whole process of getting our country to finally adopt a national strategic plan. We have made important progress since the plan was launched. Women did complain that whenever women had to be, when they had been abused by men, when they went to police stations to report their cases of abuse, they were always met by insensitive police officers at police stations who treated their cases with lack of urgency and seriousness. We have listened to this, and government has ensured that this injustice is addressed. Minister Bheki Cele is one of those who listened very, very closely. And as a result, more than 12,000 police members have received training to respond effectively to gender-based violence and to focus on the needs of victims of gender-based violence. More than 1 million DNA collection kits have been delivered to police stations around the country since 2019, and there are now just over 1,000 victim-friendly rooms at police stations countrywide. And I'd like to encourage women's organizations to keep an eye on this. As you visit our police stations, just make sure that indeed those rooms that we say exist indeed do exist, so that every police station in our country must have a room that is well equipped, a room that is designed to cater for the needs of women who come to report abuse cases. Yes, I'm encouraging you to be our inspectors. I'm encouraging you, yes, to go to our police stations and check that this is a reality. Over the last year, we opened a number of Tutuzela care centers for victims of gender-based violence, and we now have a total of 62. This is by no means enough for a country like ours, which has high incidence of gender-based violence. And I've called on a number of key role players, business included, to join us in setting up more and more Tutuzela centers throughout the country, where we should have finally a Tutuzela center nearly in every ward in our country is exactly where we should be going. We are improving access to shelters and associated services for survivors of gender-based violence. In January last year, I signed into law 3 key pieces of legislation, namely the Criminal Law Sexual Offences and Related Matters Act, the Criminal and Related Matters Amendment Act, and the Domestic Violence Amendment Act as well. These new laws provide greater protection to survivors of gender-based violence to ensure that perpetrators are no longer able to evade prosecution and to strengthen the measures to prevent gender-based violence. Yes, Premier, as you said, and that Mbogoto must be the whole of society, but our government as well. We have responded to the call for tougher bail conditions for perpetrators. And in fact, we now want to move to a stage where when you touch a woman and you are arrested, no bail for you. Because there is no justifiable reason for us as men to believe that we own women. As you said, Minister Dlamini Zuma, yes, there was a period where men believed that they owned women. And we much needs to change. Men need to change. Because many of these cases are actually done by people who are known to the women of our country. So that is why we say that society needs to change so that we can get to a point where we eliminate gender-based violence. Now, coming to sport, the women of our country are excelling in sport. That is the reality. Banyana and the Protea netball team did our country extremely proud recently. They put our flag on the global map. Banyana the top 6 in our country to reach the top 16. Bafana has not yet succeeded. Banyana has. So Bafana must come and take lessons from Banyana. So we are very proud, and that is why I said what this means. If you look at this equation and you balance it and you calculate it, the women of our country in sport must get paid more than the men. Now, of course, we also, and I call upon our sporting organizations, I call upon the sponsors of sport to ensure that we have professional leagues, particularly in football as well as netball. Once we have professional leagues that will encourage and sharpen the skills of the women of our country, I have no doubt that the World Cup could be in our hands very soon. Now, I attended the final match of netball in Cape Town a few days ago, and Minister Zizi Kodwa encouraged me and said, President, let us as government make a commitment that we are going to build a netball arena for the women of our country. Because as Dame Nicole, who is the president of Netball, World Netball, she said to me that, President, once there is a netball arena, it is going to encourage even young girls to participate in larger numbers, and you will see a great improvement in your netball. So that is now on our screen, and we are going to ensure that there is a development like that. The Premier says he wants it here in Gauteng. Now, lastly, I want to talk about how all of us can be united in mobilizing all of society to support the women of our country on their road to empowerment and the improvement of their lives. Yes, society does need to change. We need a movement as powerful as the women who marched on the Union buildings to end violence against women and children, but we also need a movement that will ensure that there is meaningful empowerment for the women of our country. We end patriarchy. We ensure that they become economically active. We need a woman that includes every woman and man in this country, that brings together every organization, every church, mosque, temple, synagogue, that involves every workplace, every school or university, every endeavor of South African life. We need a movement that extends to every town and village, that extends to every farm and homestead, every home and hostel. No one should be left behind or left out of this whole endeavor. So in the end, as we celebrate Women's Day here at the Union Buildings, we are disturbed by the troubling events in the city of Cape Town. This year, we were supposed to hold Women's Day celebration in Khayelitsha in Cape Town. However, we had to move this event, which has pleased the Premier of Gauteng immensely, to the Union Buildings because of violence associated with the taxi strike in the city. While our democracy protects peaceful protests, as well as lawful strike action, we cannot condone what has been happening in Cape Town. And we strongly condemn the violence and the destruction caused by this dispute. We are appalled by the killings and the assaults that have taken place, because women have also been injured in all this. Blocked roads that lead to blocked businesses, blocked education, and blocked health services, indeed services that should be given to the women of our country as well. We must uphold the law and we must solve problems through meaningful dialogue. Dialogue is the best way of resolving problems, and we need to engage in dialogue. And when you engage in dialogue, it means that much as the situation may be difficult, we need to settle down, and all parties must come together to engage in dialogue without resorting to violence. Today we think of the women of Khayelitsha and the rest of Cape Town. We think the men and the children and the families that are trying to go about their lives in peace and in safety in that part of our country. We also have a responsibility to protect lives and livelihoods. We all have a responsibility to build a safe, peaceful society. We all have a responsibility to build a society in which every girl can realize her dreams, and every woman can live the life that she wants. We have come far. We still have much further to go. There are many rights that the women of our country still need to record. There are many areas that we still need to improve the lives of our women in. But working together as the women and the men of South Africa, we will achieve a free and equal society for which generations of women have fought and strived for. And it is with these words that I wish every woman in our country to have a blessed and peaceful Women's Day. And I thank you very much indeed. Thank you.